there's something about that expression, success leaves clues, that has always rubbed me the wrong way. And I didn't really realize why until tonight when I was thinking about what I wanted to add to the collection for spirit in 2026. But let's just go with that, because if we're defining spirit, defining success is actually part of that, because, and we have talked about that in other episodes, but it's like that is what defines fulfillment for you, right? So the reason why I don't love the expression is because it implies that there's this outside path that we can follow, and there's like an answer key that exists outside of us that's going to create fulfillment. And if we just do what so-and-so did, to some degree, absolutely, we don't need to reinvent the wheel, and there are best practices, and there are ways that humans behave as humans do, and it's not a surprise and that kind of thing. But it just leaves out the thought and the nuance, which is that like it is self-defined. Success is different for each of us, and it could be different for us, you know, this year than it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 2 minutes ago, I don't know. So that's the important thing for me, I guess, the little asterisk on there. It's like it's self-defined, and I think that the most valuable place to look for those clues is actually in our own lives. And I have mentioned this in many other podcasts. I will repeat myself over and over in many ways, because it's all coming back to the same point. But the theme here is like looking into your own life, the inspiration cooties that we talked about in the last episode, the spirit, the things that actually bring you to life, that make you feel most alive. That's success. Like in this lifetime, that's the goal, right? Is to be able to feel things, to experience life, to actually be here, to be able to be present, to really inhabit the bodies that we're in as the spirits that we are with the bodies that we have. That like mindful inhabitation is how I would define presence, which is how I would define success, because it means like, okay, I was called, I was here, I got to be here for this lifetime, and I showed up. So that's all very philosophical, right? Let's make it tangible and think about looking for these divine breadcrumbs. And I'll share some of the episodes that I know I would want to point you to if you're interested in this kind of discussion and how it shows up in everyday lifey things. One is called Divine Breadcrumbs, and it's over on Naptime Empires. Another is called something about surrendering, or the full savoring, maybe the full cheese moments. And it's when I'm talking to one of my first graders about, he was doing a presentation at school, and I could tell he was trying to hold back on his smile, and I was encouraging him to just let the smile take over his face, because if you can't let your full cheese shine during the first grade turkey show, then when can you, you know? But basically that's about like squeezing the joy out of those moments while we're experiencing them, because that's part of why we're here, I think. Don't you? Like that's part of why we're here, to experience life fully. Doesn't have to mean skydiving. It's like really letting your belly, you know, let the tears fly out of your face and let your belly shake when you're laughing. Like that's part of why we're here, because we get to experience that in these physical bodies that we have. Okay, so there's that one about surrendering to the full cheese. And then I had another one that was inspired by a conversation about touched a nerve and what that expression actually means, and crying and letting our tears, you know, using our tears as a treasure map. So I wanted to anchor that here into this collection and conversation, because all of those point to the same thing, which is like success leaves clues. Okay, sure, but we're going to adapt it. And it's like aliveness leaves clues, and your life specifically leaves clues. And we've talked about that before. Yeah, I mean, like I said, we'll continue to talk about it. I'm sure I mentioned it in the most recent episodes too, but I wanted to have you play with time if you want to, okay? But like playing with time, looking backwards and looking forwards, because that's one of the uniquely human things that we get to do, is to have memories and to have imagination. And so what I mean by that is, if you're looking for and you're feeling a little flat, P.S. I also have an episode on this similarly as it relates to confidence. And it's like, when did you last feel confident? Or when in your life did you feel really confident? And what was it about that? What were you doing? What were you thinking? Like what was actually happening in those moments? And that's what we want to do here. So it's like, when did you feel really present? And when did you feel really like yourself? Because at least in the On Her Terms universe, that's how we define success. It's like that carousel of progress every year, every month, every day, just becoming more and more yourself and who you feel like you were put here to be. And so you can look at the timeline in both directions. You can look backwards and you can find those moments where you're like, yeah, I really felt like myself in those moments. Okay, seriously, actually pause this if you need to and think about it and write it down. Write that ish down, because your own success leaves clues. Again, we're defining success as expression, actualization, being yourself, feeling like you're contributing, you're showing up for yourself, for your work, for your people, for your community in a way that feels really true and powerful in whatever form that takes. You know what it means to you. So looking backwards and finding those, and then also looking forwards to finding those moments of what that would look like in the future. And then all of that swirls together like time travel when you look backwards and when you look forwards to inspire how you're showing up in this moment and how you're inhabiting this moment. Because when we're looking backwards, it's a reminder like, oh wow, okay, time actually really is passing, especially if you're looking at your kids in the camera roll, for example, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you didn't even exist this many years ago, and oh my gosh, you've changed so much, and wow, that was your whole lifetime. Like, okay, wow, time is really passing, and we need that reminder that time is a weird concept, yes, but also it's kind of straightforward in some ways too, right? Scheduling is devoting, and we know we have this many hours and weeks and la la la, but like, time is passing. So that makes me want to appreciate this moment more, because one day this moment's going to be the one in the camera roll that I'm looking back on and thinking, wow, okay, so what can I do in this moment to feel it as fully as possible, which again depends on our capacity of the day and blah 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 and whatever else is going on. Likewise, if you're looking forward, for me, this is how, I mean, who knows what we're in for here on planet Earth in the next week, honestly, week, month, year, decade, however many decades that we get. But looking forward, for me, the most valuable lens that I use, I call it Nana goals, because that's what we call my mom, the matriarch here in our family. But I think about Nana goals and how, like, I don't know what my business, my practice, my body of work is going to look like and what form it'll be or where we're going to be, because I don't know where my kids are going to settle and that kind of thing. But I can know on the timeline that, well, gang's all here, people are all here, I know how old I'm going to be, I know how old my kids are going to be if we're still all here, okay? Then how do I want to be able to show up for them and let that be the thing that actually guides me to think about what are the decisions that I can make today and the actions that I can take today that are going to set me up to be able to show up for them in the way that I would love to as adults, because for most of our lives, they will be adults. So I would love to be able to be there. And I have, I'm 26, 30, and 35 years older than each of them, respectively. So I want to be around for a long time. So a lot of the decisions that I make now, yes, it's because I want to feel as energized and strong as I can feel now currently in this moment. It's for me in the moment, but it's also for me in the future so that I can be there for them in the future. And so this is kind of how I play with time travel. And that's what I wanted to share with you here, of like success leaving clues and life leaving clues. It's definitely, I really don't think it's other people's lives, but I think it is our own lives, looking back at the things that have inspired us, that have touched us, that have moved us, that have been sticky enough to where you're coming to mind right now just as you're listening to this. And also looking into the future and kind of previewing what we would love to be experiencing, because it feels like what a waste that would be if we don't actually make time to think through some of those things so that we can actually take action on those things now, which goes back to the idea of the feedback loop and the wrap party that we talked about at the end of 2025 with that collection of episodes. It's like shortening that feedback loop as often as we can. I think that that's the ticket to actually inhabiting this moment and this one and this one and this one as much as we can. It's that awareness. I don't think that it's a bad thing. I mean, of course, if we're living in the past or we're always living in the future, right? That's not the goal, but I think it's a really great place to look. That's what I'm saying. That's the point here. Is like success leaves clues in our actual lives, in our own personal timelines. Looking backward and looking forward can help us really more fully and more purposefully sync up to this actual moment. And I feel like that's actually what success looks and feels like, is fully inhabiting this moment that we're in, which then positions us to do the same in the next and the next and the next. Okay. I know this is very philosophical. I hope that it makes sense to you. Please let me know if it does or does not, and then we can play with other ways to express it. But I wanted to note it here because this is how I think about things a lot, and this is something I talk about with my clients a lot, and it's about how the past, what we've loved to experience and what we've learned from. It's not like only what we've loved, but what we've learned from and integrated, how that informs now, and then likewise what we want to experience, how that informs now. I think it's a great thing. It's kind of like checking your mirrors when you're driving. Like, look around, turn your head when you need to as well, so that you can feel more confidently situated in the moment that you're in. That's success on her terms. Okay, let me know how that lands, and I look forward to discussing this more really truly. So hit the link in the comment box and we can talk about it more offline. I hope you're doing well as you can be wherever you are in this moment in time, whenever you're listening to this, and I'm sending you lots of love.